If you've got issues where the front of your vehicle is bouncing too much or you hear a lot of clunking, more than likely your suspension is needing to be replaced. Welcome to Tool Time, John. We're going to be working on my wife's 2011 Lexus RX350. And I'm going to insert some clips from the dash cam kind of showing you the way the vehicle bounds up and down when going over some bumps in the road. And there's also some clunking noises that we're going to have to address. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the front struts and the rear shock absorbers on this 190,000 plus mile vehicle and see if it'll give us a better ride. Now, we bought this used, so I don't know what the OEM ride quality was like, but what we are going to be replacing this with certainly has got to be better than what it is now. Just to do a test, I'm going to push down on the front of the vehicle and see how much it comes up and down. That's quite a few, actually. I'm going to see if I can do it down to slow-mo. Yeah, that's actually a lot. It shouldn't do that at all. It should rebound back one time. So I think I counted 3, maybe 4. So definitely needs to be replaced. Not everybody will have an impact. So you want to make sure that before you lift the front of your vehicle, that you loosen up the lug nuts while there's weight on the tire from the car. So you can break those loose. Now don't take them completely off until after you lift the vehicle safely, and then you could go ahead and take the wheel off. That is incredibly wet. Now, it is a wet day, but that looks like it's a blown shock. So before we start wrenching, what we'll do is spray down the bolts that we need to take off, so we're not going to be fighting it so hard. So this is where the bottom of the strut is attached to this whole wheel assembly. And then up top, there's an access panel that we have to remove to get at the strut shock mount. We'll release this clip that holds the speed sensor on. It just holds down like that. And then we'll have to remove the bracket that's holding that on, which coincidentally also holds the brake line on, because we have to remove that off of the strut. We have the sway bar that we need to disconnect from that as well, and then these 2 nuts and bolts. So that requires a 12mm socket. The bolts down here require a 22mm socket. And the sway bar disconnect is a 17mm socket. There we go. Move that out of the way. You'll also need a 5.5mm hex key to get that thing off. So success. And then just push the sway bar back and out of the way. Now this will be interesting to get those out. I'm gonna have to hold one side as I'm doing. Oh, there's a lot of gunk on here. Now we go up top, and this is the access panel that we need to remove in order to get to the bolts at the top of the strut. So it just comes off, and there are the 3 nuts that hold the top of the strut on. Those nuts up there require a 14mm socket. Good thing I had the screwdrivers down here. That last bolt or nut that I did on top of the strut mount caused it to break loose. So the challenge is trying to support this weight by myself as I take these screwdrivers out that are holding this strut in place. So we just have to be careful. Slide that out of here. And there it is. So I'm not going to be the guy that tries to remove that spring from that shock absorber. That is a recipe for disaster. So instead, you can get a whole complete unit. And these are from KYB, driver's side, front, KYB SF4453. I know this because I put front left. And the passenger side, SR4452. There it is, side-by-side comparison. You can tell the boot on the original, the one I took out, was broke all to pieces. Now, I don't know that that is actually the problem with the clunking noises, because I saw a control arm where the bushing is wore out. So that'll need to be addressed. But I'm going to go ahead and put that one in. You'll notice on that bracket down there, it's got an L on it, so it's left side, and it should be the opposite of taking it out. Yeah, that came out of the passenger side, and boy, that boot's all busted. Bump stop is tore up, and I hope the new one makes a huge difference. We have the driver's side rear wheel off, and we've got to replace this shock absorber. It's held up here with a 17mm bolt. And on the bottom, you'll notice there's a nut right there. And then on the other side is a 17mm bolt. So we'll get the lower one loose first, and then we'll do the upper one. And you'll notice these bolts are a little different. The shorter one goes up top, the longer one with the washer goes on the bottom. All right. There we go. This is the replacement, the KYB XLG, and I'll reference the part number, but got this on Amazon. There's the difference. Remember, the shorter bolt goes up top. When we cut this band, we need to make sure we're on the underside of the shock absorber to catch it, to guide it into the mount. So you may be able to see that the shock absorber here on the bottom, that's actually turned this way. So when it comes down, we've got to turn it 90 degrees to fit into the mount. All right, let's cut this banding. All right, slide it down. Oops, I want to turn it. And fix it into its position. You can use a screwdriver to get it where it needs to go. Just tighten everything back up. Pretty simple. Make sure to tighten this down as well. And let's put the tire back on. I'm gonna try the compression on these old ones. Oh man. Yeah, look at that. That is terrible. This is the passenger rear. Oh yeah, it's just as bad. Look at that. Nothing. Wow, this should significantly improve the ride. It would have been great to have another set of hands help me out with taking out the old strut and helping with the new strut going into the strut mount up top, but you can do it yourself. So I was able to do it. It took me a little bit longer than I had anticipated, only because everything was so over tight. The next thing that we need to do is take it for a test drive. Now, I got the strut replacement as an entire assembly, where I did not have to replace just the shock and reuse the strut or the spring. So we'll see how it goes. See if it'll actually drive straight and true. I don't know, we'll see. Well, the test drive went well. It's driving with no alignment needed. And it was tracking well, and the little bumps and everything else were being absorbed very, very well by the new struts and shocks. So very, very pleased. And it'll take some time for the springs to settle and the struts. The next video on this Lexus is going to be the lower control arm on the driver's side front, as well as the CV axle. So yay me, the CV axle boot is torn. So I need to get that done, but this wraps it up for this video. If you're interested in those products, I'll put the links in the description box. But other than that, if you have any questions or comments, love to hear from y'all. And for you new subscribers, thank you very much for subscribing. As you know, that helps me out. But until next time, see ya.